Hi, welcome to the Home Extension. I'm Laura Lottie.
And I'm Mike Michael.
We have a special guest today. We have Craig Igl with Universal Lending. How are you doing, Craig?
Pretty good today, Laura.
That's
Mike?
Great.
Great. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Well, I've known Craig for a few years, and he's one of my preferred resources I use in the real estate business. He's a mortgage lender. And tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you been in the business for?
I've been in mortgage lending for almost 15 years. I've seen the highs and lows of what goes on in this business. It's an ever-changing market, especially over the last 4 or 5 years after the housing bust. But it's a very enjoyable business. Being able to help people get into homes is very rewarding. So just a good business. I could see myself doing this for another 10 to 15. So
that's awesome. Where do you see the market going in the next year?
I think short term, we're probably going to see the market kind of stay where it's at. There's a lot of things going on right now, both in the U.S. and globally, that are really helping keep the rates down. We've seen appreciation and a lot more movement in home sales over the last 2 years. I see that continuing with the continued lower rates. I don't think by this time next year we would see rates too much higher than where they are now. Probably still under 5%, which is, historically still really good. So, I think we could see another good market next spring and into next year.
Where are the rates currently right now then?
Currently, we're, for a conforming loan, the one everybody kind of talks about, we're in the low 4%. So, historically, anything under 5% since 1960 is really, really good.
1960, wow.
When they really started tracking rates.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. That's like, well, I mean, to people that are like 20 and 23 or, 1960s, like.
and it's funny because with, we've had low rates now since the early 2000s, that people kind of get a little bit spoiled,
Right.
An eighth to a quarter of a percent down in the low fours is still really an excellent rate. And even getting to 5%, that's a historically, anything under 5 1/4 is a really, really good rate. So,
so right now would probably be the time to buy.
Right
Because I know,
yeah.
like Laura as a realtor, like her inventory, like there's no like resale homes. Like there's nothing out there. I mean, literally, like I was just talking to one of my friends, and they put their house on the market, and literally, like they got 3 offers within a week because there's no homes out there. So. But what I also did, like when I used to sell real estate in Las Vegas, and I was wondering if you could go over like what you need to do like to know how much home you're worth, like how much you can afford.
Yep.
Like what do you all really need to bring in? Because I think otherwise it just kind of wastes like the realtor's time to come and be like, oh, okay, I'd like to look at a $400,000 house. You're like, well, you only can afford an $80,000 house.
Right.
So, I mean, what are the things they actually need to bring in to you or be prepared for? Because I know it's like 2 years at a job or...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the list is exactly.
There's really two words out there when you're talking about looking to start buying a house for the financing. There's a pre-qualification, and then there's a pre-approval.
Oh, okay.
So a pre-qualification, you're going to take somebody's information, who they are, social, date of birth, where they live, how much they make, and get a credit report, and then you can run their debts to their income and figure out how much home they can afford.
Okay.
That's what's called a pre-qualification.
So when they do a pre-qualification, then do you kind of like sit down with them like, okay, like you need to clear this up, don't buy a car, because it'll screw up your debt ratio?
Those are the beginning steps.
I mean, do you help them through that whole process?
We do. We
okay.
Educate them on the whole process, what they should or shouldn't do, if there's anything they need to do to help improve their credit,
right.
Things like that. Then you move into a pre-approval, which is everything that you've done for pre-qualification,
Right.
but you actually collect pay stubs, W-2s, and asset statements, and you verify that what they've told you is true
Right.
for what they make and how much money they have for down payment. So when they meet with their realtor, the realtor these days is going to ask for a pre-approval letter and not a pre-qualification letter, because they know that the income and assets have been verified, and what you tell them they can afford for a home is what they can actually afford.
So what is the difference between the two?
So the pre-qual is not verifying their income and assets, where a pre-approval, you've collected and looked at their pay stubs
Oh, okay.
and said, okay, they are salary, they make what they told me they make, now they're good to go.
So the other one's kind of like hearsay, and then the other one's kind
The
of
other
like
one's,
documented
yeah,
proof.
it's about as good as the paper that it's written on, because you haven't verified anything
Right.
to be accurate on what they've told you.
So would you recommend that anybody, like, even if they're not looking for a home, just kind of check out where they are, like, financially, like,
Yeah, I would say,
to see if you can buy a home, or like, okay, like, we'd like to buy a house 2 years down the road.
if
What
you're
do we need to
1
do?
year, 2 years, then we would do a pre-qualification. I don't need your income or assets right now, because the big thing is going to be getting a credit report, seeing where your scores are, and then seeing if there's anything we can do to help, fix some things that might be in the past,
Right.
or maybe you have excellent credit, and that might move up your timeline on when you'd actually want to buy a house.
Because I would think, like, like newly married couples, like, eventually they were like, they want to move out of their apartment or whatever, and like in 2 years we'd like to buy a house. I think it would be nice for them to be able to come in and be like, okay, if you stay on this track, and sure, you want to buy a new car, but you don't have a car payment right now. So if you take on a new car, that's $300 that goes against your house payment.
Right.
So,
Yep.
because I know,
Debt
like,
to
your debt
income.
ratio is supposed to be what, like 33 to.
Yeah, the housing ratio, they like to see 28 to 30%, and then the total amount of debts that you have under 45%.
Right, and I think a lot of people, like me personally too, like when you think about debt, like, I think that doesn't include like your electric or your cable or your cell phone.
Or gas for your vehicle,
It's
going to the
just-
grocery
it's
store.
your credit cards. Like because I know my mom was refinancing her condo, and they did all of her credit checks, and then it took so long they had to do another one. So they did another one 6 months, but she had to open up a credit card, she wanted to buy a TV, so she just got credit
Right.
from the store, but that messed her all up by like 2 points.
2%, yeah.
Right, and so and she was like, well, I didn't know, and I'm like, well.
And that's like the loan officer, what I do, should
Right.
be educating her when you start the process, whether it's a purchase or a refinance. Don't open any new debt. Don't get don't even have your credit report pulled by anybody else.
Right.
Because the day, within a couple days before you close on that loan, they do check your credit to see if there's been any new hard inquiries.
Right.
Yeah, the 7 deadly sins are like purchasing a car, opening a line of credit. What are the other ones?
Like moving large amounts of money between your bank accounts, or
My Swiss accounts.
they want to verify, on bank accounts, they see large deposits, they want to verify and source where that money came from.
Right.
So when you start, if you've got so much in savings, so much in your checking, keep them there.
Right.
Keep doing what you're doing, but try and not move large amounts of money from one account to the other, because then you're just going to have to get me something new to verify, why was it moved, or was it your money already that's just moving accounts? Did it come in from an outside source?
Well, yeah, that actually happened to my mom too, because I had cashed a check that I had, and it was like a large amount, and they're like, and it didn't show up as anything. It just showed up like she cashed
Just
a check.
a deposit, yep.
And they were like, where did you get this, $1,800? And she's like, oh, that was da-da-da. Okay, well, they had to write that all down. And I'm like, wow. They really keep track of that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so if you're going in and buying a new house and you're all pre-qualified and you're doing all that and you're ready to go to Laura, how much money should you have in savings or backup, like for closing costs, or, I mean, do you need a substantial amount of money, like 20% down, or?
Yeah,
And I think it all depends on like the loan you get too.
yeah. There's a lot of programs out there,
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer or not. There are some no money down programs.
Right.
If you are a veteran, it's a no money down program, a really great program for veterans. If you're buying outside of like a metro market, outside of Madison, the USDA Rural Development Loan, that is also no money down. And then you move to FHA, which is 3.5% down, and then a conventional loan is 5% down. But the neat thing about actually both of those is if you don't have the down payment personally, that money can be gifted from an immediate family member.
Oh, okay.
And that way, like, you're technically still not putting any money down.
Right.
And then as far as your closing costs and setting up your escrow account at the time of closing, you know, kind of a good range is right around $3,000 that you should plan on for both closing costs and escrows.
Right.
But as Laura may have explained at some point, you know, you can have the seller pay for that. So you can include that where at closing the seller's going to pay a certain amount towards your closing costs and escrows, which helps reduce those out-of-pocket expenses that you bring to the closing table.
Right, you know, because like it's always good, like if you can write an offer, like, well, we'll come in at listing price if you cover like the closing costs or whatever, because it just comes off their check.
Right.
Like they wouldn't even see the difference that when instead of coming out of your pocket. You know what I mean?
It's a net. It's a net for them. They already know if they're accepting this offer with so much of a credit back to the buyer,
right,
that their bottom line is going to be this.
Well, if a family member gifts you money, is it only a family member that can gift you money?
It has to be an immediate family member. So basically, you know, mom, dad, brother, sister, or like a aunt or uncle.
Oh, well, when they do that, do you have to have it gifted like within, like does it have to be in your bank account for 6 months, or can they write the check for you that day?
They can. We get a gift letter, so both parties are going to say the gifter will say where the money's coming from, and whether it has been gifted or will be gifted, and both parties sign that letter, and then you can either get the check right away, deposit it. So we verify that the gift came and that it was deposited and has cleared the account, or you can also do a gift the day of closing, where they will cut a check directly to the title company to the title company's name, even though it's a gift, you know, to the buyer, and reduces the amount of documentation you need to get to verify the gift was transferred.
I would almost think they'd probably want a money order to make sure that's like real
a cashier. Yeah, it has to be certified.
Checks.
Yeah, certified funds, whether it's a cashier's check or a direct wire.
Right.
But there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of options out there for buyers, you know, to get into homes with very little, if not no money down.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of programs out there, and then I guess I'd probably lead to my next question. Like, how would you, like, if you were going out there and you were looking for a lender such as yourself, how would you interview them? What would you ask them? I mean, what kind of questions that they know that they're on their A game, or that they know about these programs, or you know what's happening? I mean, how do you interview somebody like that?
I think that part is really kind of tough. I've been doing this a long time, and you know, I know a lot of the ins and outs of what the underwriter is going to ask for, the things you should or shouldn't be doing. But as a first-time home buyer, you may not know to ask those questions on how. So I think, you know, you should work with somebody that you get a good feeling about when talking to them. But after that, you ask them, you know, what is their process? Like, when I meet with you, what is going to get me from our first meeting to the day of closing? What is that process going to be? What should I expect? You know, is it going to be hard? Is it going to be easy? And you know, really, if they feel they get the answers that they want, that's where they figure out who they should be working with.
Right. And I know a lot of people like a lot of directions, you know, or like they want a syllabus. And then some people are just like, you just take care of it, just call me and let me know whatever you need.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, oh. Well, what I do outside of here, I mean, did you ever see like understudies where you kind of like, dude, you should have, you know, like maybe did this, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I see people like in my field, like they're doing something and I'm like, but.
Like they go out and buy a car and it's just like, oh, I told you.
Yeah, like why did you tell him not to buy a car? You know, like, oh, I forgot to bring that up. You're like, oh, well, you know.
Right.
I know. Can you take back a car? I don't even know.
But sometimes there are, you know, you get all range of buyers.
Right.
You know, you get the people that say, just tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to get you. And, you know, and we'll get it for you as fast as we can. There's other buyers that aren't, they want to buy the house. They're motivated to buy the house. But when it comes to collecting information from them,
Right.
they're a little bit slower. And that's where you kind of got to grab them and shake them a little bit and say, hey, I'm here to help you, you know, get you to that closing, get you into your house.
Right.
So you do have to work with me to, you know, I don't ask for things just because it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, when I ask for something, it's because it's needed, not necessarily because I need it. It's the underwriter that's saying, and the guideline that says we
Right.
need to provide this so that we can clear the condition and get everything cleared up.
Sounds kind of diverse of people that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
It is.
Kind of reminds me of like my waiting tables days. You know, there were people that knew what they wanted, and then there were people like were so hungry they didn't know what they wanted.
Well, one of the reasons also why I work with Craig is he's great in communication with me and everything. And when I need something, he's on spot. I'll text him, call him, all hours.
Well, and I know
weekends.
you're excellent at that. I mean, you love email, and you love, I mean, you like looking stuff up. You know, and I don't mind going to anybody that can admit to me, like, you know, I don't know about that, but I will look into that. And if I trust that they're really going to look into it, I don't care if you're brand new or 200 years old. You know, just if you're willing to really work hard and look into it, then great. You know what I mean? But some people where they just want to wing it.
I still find myself doing that. You know, even after 15 years.
Right.
You know, you never learn everything about your business. You can always learn new things, and when I still get questions where I don't know the exact answer. You know,
Right.
and it's like, you know, let me check. You know, I have to go to the guidelines or call an underwriter and ask them, hey, here's my situation. You know, what do we need to provide or do to kind of get through this? But going back to the communication, like Laura said, I think it's key in your relationship, you know, that the communication is there, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
You know, you need to let them know what's going on, keep them informed throughout the process so that, you know, they feel comfortable, and, you know, you want to make it as smooth and enjoyable a process for them. It's a very big move, you know, financial position they're taking in their life to buy a house.
Right.
So you really want to make sure they're comfortable with it, and I think communication really has a lot to do with that.
It
Sounds
does.
like more people should try that at home. Sounds like sound advice.
No, communication is very key to the whole process and everything. With, for example, I mean, we worked one loan before and the lender wasn't getting back to us, and it was super hard and frustrating, and we were not meeting deadlines, but then Craig took over and got it done.
Right.
Craig has closed on many difficult deals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's not too many easy deals left anymore, and
Right.
which has nothing to do with the buyers. You know, with everything that's happened over the last 5 years, the guidelines have gotten a lot more restrictive. as far as the amount of information that the underwriter is looking for. It's not to say that people can't buy a house, you're not going to get approved for a house.
Right.
That part is really hasn't changed.
Right.
If you make the money and you have a certain amount of debt and your credit is at a certain point, that part really hasn't changed. But really the feeling of people that have gone through the process before is that it's so much tougher because the guidelines and more restrictions to provide better loans to Fannie and Freddie, so we don't get the foreclosure and the bust like we had, just seems like a much more in-depth process, which it is. But that doesn't mean that people should just say, I've heard it's so tough to get a mortgage that I'm not going to qualify. But in truth, that's probably not really what's going on.
Right.
If all the ducks line up, your income, your credit, your debts, we can get you into the home. It's just that we do ask, the process asks for a lot of information to clear, to make sure that loan is saleable, to Fannie Mae, because they don't want buybacks, they don't want foreclosures. They want to try and prevent what happened back in 2007, 2008.
Right. That was a nice.
So what's the difference between your bank, or your company, mortgage company, a regular bank, and a credit union?
So first off, your mortgage, pretty much all, no matter where you go, ends up at the same spot. Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac.
Right.
Or HUD if you do an FHA loan. But the difference is where a bank is usually one lender. So they're their lender, and they sell to Fannie or Freddie Mac, and then they put their own overlays on for the risk they're willing to accept for when they do sell them. So Fannie Mae doesn't find something, they have to buy them back and keep them on their books. They want them off in the secondary market, even if they're holding the servicing. Credit union works very similar to that. They kind of put everything together and it goes off to Fannie or Freddie, but they hold on to the servicing. We're a little different in being a broker in that we actually work with over 20 different lenders. And all lenders, even though loans are ending up at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or HUD, different lenders will look at the guidelines differently on what they're willing to accept for risk.
Right.
So we have some lenders that have very few overlays or no overlays for Fannie Mae, whereas if you go to a bank or credit union, that person may not qualify because of something, because of an overlay or a risk that the bank is not willing to accept, even though Fannie Mae says it's okay.
What is an overlay?
So an overlay is, say the credit score for a certain program is 620. That's the minimum credit score that Fannie Mae would accept.
Oh, okay.
But an overlay would be, let's say a bank says, well, we don't want to accept a risk for a credit score under 640 because we think that risk under 640 is too high for us where we could have to buy the loan back.
Right.
So they'll put that overlay in where they wouldn't accept anything under 640, even though Fannie Mae says we go down, to 620. It's an example of what the bank will put on top of the guidelines from Fannie or Freddie or HUD.
Oh, okay. So it's the bank's guidelines on top of
It's the bank's guidelines on top of Fannie's guidelines.
Oh, so they're just putting their own restrictions on top of what? Oh, I see.
And it's what they're willing to accept for risk.
Right.
When they sell the loan back, because if that loan gets audited and they find something wrong with it, the bank has to buy it back. And then it's on their books, which affects their bottom line.
Right.
Instead of it going off to the secondary market, which is Fannie or Freddie.
Right.
And then they're just servicing it, they're not holding it on their bottom line.
Right. Well, what else I find difficult? Well, not difficult, but it's quite knowledgeable, like in this day and age, you know, like with Google, like Fannie Mae could put something out and then your client's calling you and you didn't even hear about it because it just came off the press.
Right.
You know, I mean, in any of our fields, you know, everybody's like an expert now, and you're like, and try to, you know, stay on the hamster wheel and keep up with all of them, you know, because they come with you all these loaded questions. You're like, you almost have to be like, I haven't seen that yet, but I will look into it.
Right.
You're like, oh, well, thanks for letting me know. Let me check it out.
That happens quite a lot where, like, the media will get hold of, you know, a proposed rule change or guideline change.
Right.
You know, and we love Google.
Right.
But that stuff gets out there, and, you know, a homeowner that's, you know, searching, trying to get themselves educated on the process.
Right.
And they see something that they might say, well, now that might keep me from getting qualified, or what's going, you know, what is this?
Like, and this has
what is this new
nothing
rule
to do with you.
Right.
You know, like, that's for people with 4 toes.
Yeah.
You know, you have all your toes. You're fine.
So that does happen
Right.
quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy out there. Like, I know, because like in my field too, like people come to me and be like, well, why are you doing it that way? And I'm like,
So where do you project 2015 being? Do you see more new construction? Do you see more buyers coming out and sellers refinancing? I've noticed maybe some empty nesters are downsizing.
Actually, you're touching on pretty much everything that is going to affect the market next year. We see new construction really taking off, and especially for next year, you know, we're looking at building permits, you know, moving forward.
Right.
And those are on the rise, and that's always good to see new construction. That's a big part of the economy when new homes are being built. I do think that next year we will see more sellers come into the market again, because there are plenty of buyers out there, like you said earlier, without the inventory for them to buy a house. And
Right.
a good house goes on the market and it's getting snatched up pretty quick.
Yeah.
The refinances, even, you know, I just saw something from Fannie and Freddie stating that there's almost 9 million homes out there that are above 5% that could actually refinance under the HARP program, which is the government refi program,
Right.
that haven't taken advantage of that. And usually what that boils down to is a consumer not knowing what's really available to them. They're thinking, you know, my house, you know, my value is underwater, so I'm not going to qualify for a refinance.
Right.
But these special programs do allow, you know, if your loan was originated before June of 2009, it allows you to have, doesn't matter what value your home is at,
Right.
as long as you qualify on your income and credit, they'll refinance you to the lower rate. So for next year, I see the resale, the new construction really leading the market, and still some stragglers in the refis, but not as much as it has been over the last 2, 3, 4 years.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Craig, for coming on the show. If you need additional information, I'll have Craig's information on our Facebook page. And up next is Heidi with her creations.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.
No problem.
Hi, welcome back to the Home Extension. Heidi, what are we going to be doing today?
Well, hi guys. So nice to be back.
Hi, Heidi. Did you have a
Hi.
nice weekend?
I did. I always have nice weekends.
Did you do anything fun or pick up anything in your vehicle?
I did pick up lots of salvaged pieces. Of course, that's what I, continue to hoard these items.
Right.
But something I did over the weekend that makes me bummed out every fall is cleaning out the gardens.
Oh,
So
right.
we have a huge fire pit in our backyard, and surrounding that fire pit is my favorite thing to do in the summer, and that's gardening. And I'm constantly pulling flowers and different textural pieces out of those to create centerpieces. The good news is from our garden we got some really cool, unlikely, I guess, floral arrangements for today's show. So that was a cool piece.
So, I mean, when you plant your garden, do you plant it as, like, ooh, I'll use that in fall?
Sometimes. So my garden usually starts in early spring. At the end of April, things are starting to come up. And then towards the summer, early summer, you get lots of florals. And then there's kind of a lull and when it gets really hot. And then towards the end of summer, there's more florals. And then everything cuts back to this gorgeous fall. You know, the grasses start to bloom like this. That's what I call a bloom anyway. Everything changes to more of those rich colors, more reds, burgundies, that sort of thing.
Right.
All my pots, I tend to do bright, fun flowers.
Right.
But all of the flowers that come back every year, all of those are more of a fall landscape.
Well,
piece. Yeah.
with gardening, I mean, I know it's a little sidetrack, but is it like now the time to plant your bulbs?
I
when do they
don't
do
do
that?
bulbs because I don't like to dig them up.
Right.
So a lot of people will plant them in the fall and then I think they come back in the spring, but that's really not, I'm not good at that.
Because I know they do that thing at the Capitol, like where you can go up there after all the tulips have bloomed,
Oh,
and then you
sure.
can go and dig up all the bulbs.
Sure. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me, but
Not my gig.
yeah, okay, yeah, let's just stick.
But
with
my
seeds.
gig today
Seeds or the
is
greenhouse.
creating a beautiful fall
Okay.
tablescape, okay?
Awesome.
So the gardening got me in the mood for it, that's for sure. So if you don't know what a tablescape is, I like to think of it as landscaping in your house, right? So when you work
Okay.
outside in your garden, you're constantly looking at how everything works together and play and creating kind of a visual experience when you're outside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same thing when you sit down to have dinner. So today we are going to use this as almost like our dinner table, okay? And then I want to walk you through some items that are very simply found, maybe in your yard, or all of this was in my storage area.
Garage.
Yeah, well, the storage, the clean storage area.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So you can just pull all these random pieces out to create such an awesome experience for your dinner table.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So when we work on our tablescape today, what we're going to focus on is that center section. So you've got all your plates around the table, but what goes down the middle, right? So
Well, I just had a quick question. You know, like this stuff, like, do you
Yeah.
think like you almost set it up like so you have icebreakers, like conversation
exactly.
pieces?
Yeah, that's one of the key elements that I keep in mind when I put pieces of things together. Something that can start a conversation.
Right.
You know, you could go to your flower shop locally and get a floral arrangement and put it right in the middle, and it will be beautiful. Your table's going to be gorgeous.
And
Your
that's
friends and
all
family
I'll
will
say.
love it, but they're all going to have that.
Right.
So why not get really creative with your tablescape?
Great idea.
Yeah. So here are a couple things that I found around the house or around the yard that we can use in our tablescapes, okay? So simple candle holders, these are really interesting. They actually were from my wedding. So I've got several of these laying around the house, but they provide really
Laying
cool
around.
colors. Yeah, you know, just hanging out. Burlap is really big this year. So these are some super cute burlap candle holders that I tend to use the flameless candles.
Right.
Just in case, you never really
Right.
know.
You don't know if it's
Yeah.
fire retardant.
But those are really cute and could be simply used in a tablescape. Different things like lanterns, pine cones in the fall, so easy to find, and you can glitter them up yourself and then just put them in a plastic bag when you store them and you can reuse them over and over.
A lipstick mirror, because
Yeah.
the ladies love to check
Yes.
themselves out.
This is a super old, kind of rustic, falling apart mirror, but it's really cute if you use it as a tray, and then you can
Oh.
place other things on top of it.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Here's another little wooden tray that I actually made. Again, something to center your centerpiece, something to ground it a little bit. Different table runners, you know, things like an
Did you
old
make that
bird
one?
cage. What's that?
That table runner?
I did, yep.
And you just put like a...
Yeah,
some-
just line it with a little bit of ribbon. So this is, you can buy burlap in rolls at any craft store. And then you can just dress it up a little bit by sticking a ribbon down the middle. You might want to, you know, if you want to use something a little bit thicker or more decorative. Sometimes for me, simple is best. Just
Right.
a touch of color.
I'm all about less is more.
Yeah, I think so too.
I've also noticed that a bunch of craft stores have their like 50% off,
Yes.
or 70% off right now too.
Absolutely. Now's a really good time to start shopping for fall. For some reason, it seems like Thanksgiving's like the forgotten holiday. So we go from this crazy Halloween to Christmas, and now there's all these holiday decorations. So somewhere in the mix, Thanksgiving kind of gets lost. So really, it could be a benefit for your tablescape because you can get all those decorations very
Maybe it just takes that
inexpensive.
long to recover.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So then we've got a couple different tin cans. These are just older, more interesting cans that you just don't find too often anymore. This is just a cute little bird cage. Of
Actually,
course,
you
why
know,
would I have
if
that?
I came to your
Fun
house,
to
I'd
put
probably
like
take
a
a picture of
candle in
that so I
there.
can have the recipe for,
Yeah.
for the Toll House cookie.
See, exactly, yep. So again, some other fall pieces. These are just, you know, the little corn you get at the pumpkin patch? Those are always cute, kind of sprinkled in a tablescape. And then we'll talk about these centerpieces too as we use them, okay? So what I'm gonna do is just kind of clear a spot here, and we are gonna put together some examples of what a beautiful tablescape would look like.
Oh,
Okay, so here are some tips, little tips from me. Find interesting things. Okay, don't use the everyday same old that you would see at your friend's house, okay? Keep in mind what you're working with. If you
Right.
have a rectangular table, it's a lot easier to use a table runner, something that can go down the center, that can kind of ground your centerpiece a little bit and add some color. Okay. If you have a round table, you're probably not going to want to do as much of a long table runner as maybe you want to get a large doily or cut out a piece of fabric, something to kind of sit right in the middle, because your centerpiece isn't going to travel as much as it is just going to kind of come up in the middle.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got all of our linens down. Here's just a plain, simple table runner.
And where would you get that?
You can get those anywhere too. Craft stores have them. You can get them at you know, Targets, Walmarts, any of those big superstores too. And you can also make them. It's just a rectangular shape. So cut out a piece of fabric and sew the edges, and you're done. Yeah, you could embellish the ends if you wanted to. You could add, you know, there's paintable fabric. Your kids could get involved and make something. So yeah.
Or maybe if you did like a whole tablecloth, you know, kind of like that. What is that one Italian restaurant? You know, where they put down that,
Yeah,
and you can just,
and you
your
can
kid
write on
draw
it.
and
Yes.
spill your wine or do whatever.
Exactly, something different, you know, something that's going to add some texture. So we've got our linens. Then we're going to kind of want to ground a little bit of the centerpiece. That's where I love to use these trays. Now you can use decorative metal trays if you've got, you know, like something from your grandmother maybe, or an old plate that you just really love. Something to draw your attention to the centerpiece, and then you can look at the beautiful things inside of it.
Or you know what would be a really good, you know, kind of another idea is like to put everything that everybody left at your house that's coming over.
Well, you could, all like the lost and found.
Right.
Or put their keys in a bucket if you're having a, you know, perfect.
You know, like, oh, by
Yeah.
the way, you left your sunglasses here 5 years ago. There they are.
Here they are. Please take those with you.
I keep forgetting to put them
Yeah. So if you have a tray like this and you wanted to line it with something, you could do that. The more you layer without getting tacky, without getting carried away, the more your piece is going to be interesting and the more it's going to bring that conversation that you were talking about.
Right.
Now this is something I love, okay? If you have a big vase like this, something that's got some diameter to it, stick a mason jar in the middle. You probably can't see that in there, but there's a mason jar right in the middle of that. That's where you're going to be able to put your candle. And then surround your mason jar with interesting things. Here we've got wine corks. You could also fill around that with coffee beans. You could use corn, popcorn, like the unpopped popcorn. You could use lentils, something to add some color. If you go to the bean section of the grocery store, I know that sounds a little odd. Look at the textures of the lentil beans, the green ones, the garbanzo beans, the red ones, and then just think about creatively how you can use those colors in different ways like this to
Right.
bring something interesting into your tablescape too.
You could even almost like layer in them.
Yeah.
In there
Yes.
also.
Wouldn't that be cute? Do some red and some green if you're doing holiday or the fall colors.
And you probably
Absolutely.
want to keep it like kind of food orientated.
That's such a great idea too, because I have one of these and then my mason jar. That's
Simple,
great.
right?
Yeah.
So simple, and that's not something you'll see at everybody's dinner party.
Or fill it up with M&M.
Yeah, Well, the candle could create quite the mess if it gets too hot. One thing I will recommend too, when you are using items in centerpieces, remember that your dinner experience is mostly about the food and the fellowship.
Right.
If you create a centerpiece loaded with scent, it's going to really take away from your dinner.
Right.
So if all you smell is cinnamon sticks and vanilla candles and all these overwhelming things,
Right.
You're not going to get quite the dinner experience maybe
And
that
some
you're
people might
looking
have
for.
allergies.
Could
or
be,
something.
yeah.
Well-
or you ever sit next to the person with way too much cologne
Like
or
at a
perfume.
restaurant?
Yeah, it just detracts from the whole experience.
Right.
So I would just be careful with stuff like that. Okay, so then let's grab some pine cones.
I was wondering,
just
do you
place them around.
recommend like how high a centerpiece should be?
Yes.
You know, because I don't like when somebody's sitting across from me and I can't see them.
Yep. There are some basic rules, I guess you could say, about centerpieces.
Okay.
If you have a rectangular table or even a round table and people are sitting across from each other, in order to talk over the centerpiece, even this one's a little bit high.
Okay.
If we're sitting here, I can see across, but they say to keep things 8 inches or lower.
Right.
And if you've got a tall centerpiece, it has to be at least, the bottom of it should be at least 12 inches or higher. So that when someone's sitting, they could kind of see under. Like, so this centerpiece, it goes up as
Right.
opposed to out. So you can see kind of underneath it.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? So
yeah, so then
here,
you don't have to take the centerpiece away when you're
yeah,
having dinner. Then.
right,
Yep.
right.
That's
So
a good idea.
test it. When you're putting a centerpiece together, sit at your table, and if you can't look across and speak, it's probably not the best to go right in the middle of the
Or
table.
make it see-through.
Yeah. Or I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but call me.
Just a
Because
window.
that's something I would love to
It's
see.
an old window.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is a very simple centerpiece, but it looks so cute, right?
Right.
Just simple and basic. Now it would look even better if you kind of continued it out and down your table. So grab other pieces, like candle holders, or even maybe the tins would look cute if you place those in here. The more you could stack up, the more interesting your tablescape becomes. And now again, there's something for someone to talk about.
Do you try to keep it more like with geometrical shapes, or like if you're going round, or?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a design rule when
Well,
it comes to something like that.
Well, I'm in design, so I was.
I'm sure there is a rule.
The more and more I learn, like it's weird. My eye just keeps changing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I wonder if like.
I personally, and again, I think it's your personal preference.
Right.
I love to mix things. I really do. I like to see textures. I like to see odd things that maybe you wouldn't pair together. I like to see them accompany each other.
Right.
If it's done right and tastefully, and you don't go, one big extreme or the other, I
Right.
think it can just be so simple and pretty.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's do another example here. We'll get
Okay.
this little lantern. I'll move this guy over here on the edge. So let's talk about maybe like a floral design in the middle. Okay, so we'll grab an old tray, and you don't have to use these things on the bottom if you don't want to. This particular centerpiece came directly out of my garden. Again, we talked about that. These are the grasses, the really tall decorative grasses. They're all starting to dry out now. So these are from decorative grass, and then just these little branches are shrubbery, just random shrubbery hanging out.
Did you spray them or anything?
I didn't, but I will say, shake them. Shake them out, because this is the time of year where bugs are starting to try and find a warm spot. Just shake them and you'll get all the loose leaves off, and
Right.
you'll get the bugs and stuff off. But usually when I just pick random pieces of landscaping out, I'm not going to dry it. I'm not going to keep it. So after the dinner party, it's probably going to get, tossed.
Back to the burn pile.
Yeah, back to the burn pile. That's right. Exactly. He knows. He knows. So
Jason
again,
taught us all too
pull some of your tins in. And maybe a couple of pieces of cute little corn.
And I see that you put some string.
Oh yeah, like I said, the ribbon, anything burlappy, the twine, that rustic, is so in this year. Everybody loves it. And for me personally, I grew up kind of in the country, so that stuff for me has always been just something that makes me feel homey, I think, a little bit too. So then, if you've got a long enough table, what if you just kind of really brought your tablescape out? I'll trade you. Thank you. And made a long tablescape. Does that make sense? Something like that.
What kind of plant is this?
That is from, I think it's called, it's one of those bright red, like a burning bush. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Do they get bigger?
Well, this doesn't. So the shrub actually is really tall. It's about like this, and it kind of anchors the corner of our house. In the fall, the leaves turn a beautiful bright red. The leaves fall off, and you get these really dainty, cute little berries.
Oh, cute.
Look like
Yeah.
Tic
Yeah, aren't they cute?
Tacs. Don't eat them, I guess.
So in these little
You made
centerpieces.
this from your garden?
Yeah, well, these paper ones, I am not very good at growing paper flowers yet. But these I actually made out of old dress patterns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you take the material, which is almost like tissue paper, and you can cut the edges,
All right.
fold it up real cute, and then you'll just put it on a floral stick
Oh.
and wrap it up. And so those just become, again, another element in your centerpiece that that is creative. It's just a little bit out of the ordinary. And then the branches, just find random things.
You could almost hit them with
nice.
spray paint. Like, I
Sure.
mean, just like
Yeah,
real quick, like for whatever season you're in.
you bet. If you wanted to
just
add
so
some
it just,
color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, not like saturate it, but just put a
Yeah.
hue over the top of it. Or
Sure. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to stuff like this. You're obviously going to tailor it for your taste, for the season. As we move closer to Christmas, this won't become the yellows and browns and greens as much as it would become more, holiday-ish, bright reds and green, that kind of stuff. But tailor it towards your taste. Do what's going to make you happy. Part of your dining experience is what you get to see while you're sitting here. So
Right.
instead of looking at, grumpy uncle with mashed potatoes on his face, I would rather look at, something beautiful in the middle of the table,
or
right?
get a centerpiece that's taller than 8 inches.
Yes, so when you're sitting down, you're not going to want to stare right in there. The other part of the tablescape is going to be your place settings, your name cards, little details that you can
Oh,
add,
right.
around the table. So your plates, and then how you present your silverware, how you fold your napkin, place settings if you wanted to go that far. All of those little details are just going to add so much character to your table and really help your guests feel very invited and welcome to your space.
Yeah, I always think, guest tags or whatever, like those are always so nice. I mean, just with going back to school, like I'm kind of a fan of like WordPerfect now.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know there's so many fonts and so many different ways to print stuff out, like.
Well, and with Pinterest, there's so many things on Pinterest that's the same way. You can basically search for what you're looking for and put in somebody's name and print it out. Yeah, a lot of cool resources.
Wow.
Awesome.
So beautiful tablescape. Anybody could do this with stuff around their house, right?
Yes, exactly. Talking about Pinterest, you just did a segment at The Dream.
Yes. American Family here in Madison has this awesome space downtown right on the Capitol Square called the Dream Bank.
Oh.
And they host so many free events, you guys. Free events. You don't see a lot of free events anymore. And one of the things that I just recently started doing is hosting Pinterest parties for them. So we take awesome DIY crafts from Pinterest, and then once a month I'll go down to the Dream Bank, create all the supplies, bring all the materials, and I'll teach everyone who signs up how to make this beautiful craft, and then they can take it home and have it at their house. So last week we did DIY coaster making. So I created all these little wooden boxes and brought in the coasters, 100% recyclable project. Everything was reused. Brought them into the Dream Bank, and 26 people enjoyed this awesome experience and got to create. Yeah, it was super fun. So starting January, we're going to be doing wine glasses. That'll be the first one, and then you can check their website for different monthly events that happen at the Dream Bank.
Are you going to be like bedazzling them?
Well, hey, it's up to you. Your creativity can be endless at the Dream Bank. Do you like that?
Yeah, I love that place. It's great. First time I
fun.
went there
I
was
like
when I saw you do
Yeah.
a segment.
Yep, and then I've done a workshop there before talking about how to start getting started on repurposing furniture or kind of recycling things, how to get started in that realm also.
Because I've noticed, like, I was down at the Vault. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yes.
And because I was on a class trip, and they, you always find like a really nice piece of furniture, And then you always pick out, you always want to never get rid of it, but put new fabric on it.
Yes.
Like some of these chairs are built so they're built to last.
Yeah, like a tank.
Nowadays, like they're built like maybe 2 years. A couch will last like 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I like older things. Old furniture. I'm redoing an
built
old
better.
dresser right now, and it's
Super solid.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Home Extension. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Yep. And if you want to see any more of the details about the show, just go to our Facebook, The Home Extension, and Laura and I will be posting more ideas. I think I just posted on there yesterday or the day before how to use lemon and baking soda to solve many of your household needs, and make good decisions.
Have a great week.